And today, President Obama, as we've said, is marking his first trip to New Orleans since taking office. The top White House officials have been in the region, though, 35 times since March. And they say that they have managed to free up $1.5 billion in federal assistance, in addition to millions in stimulus funds. And they've also moved 3,500 people, they say, into permanent housing. U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Secretary Shaun Donovan is traveling with the president, joins us now live from New Orleans. Great to see you. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary, for joining us today. Let's talk about the pluses so far. Great to be with you, Andrea. The president is going to be visiting the only school in the 9th Ward that has actually reopened. Is this good enough? What is the next step? How can you bring things along a little bit faster pace for the people of New Orleans?
Well, when we arrived in Washington in January, it's no question we saw an incredible backlog, a bungle of red tape in trying to get money on the ground. As you just said, we've been able to move in just a few short months $1.5 billion. We heard today that in just 9 months, we've doubled the amount of money that flowed to the city of New Orleans than had flown to the city in the last 4 years. So we've made significant progress, but we also realize that there's still a long way to go. We broke ground today on the last of the big 4 public housing projects, which were terribly delayed under the last administration as well. So we've made a great deal of progress, and there are real results for the president to see on the ground today.
There is a complaint that he's not staying on the ground long enough. Why isn't he making a longer visit? He's going on to a fundraiser in San Francisco, so it's not as though he's returning to, meet on Afghanistan or Pakistan.
Let's be clear about the president's personal commitment to New Orleans and the Gulf. This will be his 6th visit since Katrina to the Gulf Coast. He has
Mr. Secretary, those were during the campaign.
The streets of the 9 Ward.
He has not been back since he was even the Democratic nominee. His last visit was when he was still vying with Hillary Clinton for the nomination.
But I think it's very hard to question the commitment of this administration. 35 trips by 20 senior officials in the administration. This is my 4th trip personally. I've been here with my whole senior team. But let's focus on the most important thing to the people of the Gulf, which is results. Ultimately, what matters is that $1.5 billion is flowing, that there are more than 30,000 people that were on the verge of losing their homes in January when we took office, who are now moved into permanent housing. And we've continued. We've had bipartisan praise. Senator Vitter, Governor Jindal, Congressman Gao. Across the board, you've heard that this administration has moved things forward on the ground. And I think ultimately that's really what the people of the Gulf care about, is the results that we're seeing on the ground. And again, his personal commitment is unquestioned. He has seen the devastation, and what he hasn't done is talk directly to the people of New Orleans. He hasn't had the chance to be in the kind of format that he's going to have today, where he can hear from citizens directly and answer their questions, whatever they may be, about the pace of recovery and where we're headed from here.
Was there any thought about going to Mississippi? The Gulf Coast is also complaining, the other coastal region is complaining that he's only visiting New Orleans, not visiting the other areas.
Again, I would say, Andrew, let's focus on what really matters here. I myself have visited dozens of other senior level visits to Mississippi, to other states at this point, the entire Gulf Coast. The results are what really matter. If you talk to Haley Barbour about whether or not we've been a good partner in this administration and gotten the recovery moving more quickly, you'll hear from him as well that we've gotten real results on the ground in Mississippi as well.
I guess I'm just suggesting that there are results. Clearly, you are recording some progress there. But something changes when a president of the United States visits. That presidential level does have a greater impact than any of you cabinet or sub-cabinet officers who are visiting on a regular basis, no?
I think that's why the president made a commitment to visit New Orleans in his first year in office. He's keeping that commitment. He's been to a school today before arriving at the town hall today. So this is a significant visit. Let's not minimize the amount of time that he's spending here and what he's doing. But again, let's focus on the results. Ultimately, what matters to the people of the Gulf is whether recovery moves very different from what you saw in the last administration, a high-level commitment across the administration to get real results on the ground.
How many people, to your knowledge, are still in trailers and still need to be moved into regular housing?
Well, let me give you the facts for HUD. When I came in, we had about 31,000 families that were on temporary assistance, what we call the Disaster Housing Assistance Program. And that was about to end in March, just a few weeks after we took office. I made a quick decision to extend that for 6 months. And today, we have about 250 families across the country, about 150 families in New Orleans, that have yet to complete the transition to permanent housing. So we've made dramatic progress on that front. On the trailer front as well, we've got just a few hundred families remaining in trailers, and we have made 5,000 vouchers available to them, a whole set of resources to help them get to the permanent housing that they need.
Clearly a strong record from your department. Thanks so much, Mr. Secretary. We hope that you'll come back on a regular basis and brief us on how you're progressing.
It's great to be with you.